Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the civil rights movement in Tennessee, and we're fortunate to have with us Professor Gloria McKissack from Tennessee State University to talk about some of her experiences doing the movement in Tennessee. And of course, Professor McKissack, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
I'm pleased, delighted to be here this morning.
And to tell you how delighted we are to have you here this morning, and especially to talk about the civil rights movement in Nashville, because we do understand that the Nashville movement was very, very important to the overall civil rights movement. But Professor McKissack, before we get started talking about the civil rights movement, let's talk about you.
Okay.
Let's have you to give us some information about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important that eventually led you to Nashville and eventually to participate in the movement, and after which we'll talk about the civil rights movement in Nashville itself.
Okay. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and went to the public school system there, and upon graduation was interested in coming south. I was from a middle-class family, and back in the day, you sent your children south to school. I had an opportunity to go to Wayne and Michigan State University, but I wanted to go to a historically black college. And that's kind of interesting because in the South at that time and other places, they were moving towards integration. And I had been in integration, living in, you know, predominantly white communities, integrated schools, and I wanted to have the opposite experience. So I came south and attended Tennessee State University. All my education is at Tennessee State. My master's and plus at Tennessee State University, and Peabody, additional courses at Wayne and the University of Northern Colorado and so forth. I taught in the school system for 32 years in metro schools, was part of the integration of the schools, the magnet school program and so forth, a desegregation plan, a lot of things. Facing adversity is what I did.
Okay, very good.
And have been an adjunct professor of history at Tennessee State University for 16 years now. Taught in the pilot courses at Rivergate and Ball State Community College, teaching African American studies.
And so you've got quite a bit of experience dealing with Tennessee State University and the state of Tennessee, even though you came from Detroit. You've been here such a long time, and of course you came at a very, very ripe time in terms of what we're talking about this morning, the civil rights movement. And I think you indicated earlier that talked about opposition and I think you used the word adversity and whatever. Let's talk about the civil rights movement and how you met that movement when you first came to the. Let's look at separation, because you were not familiar with the restaurants and two sides and all that.
It was a cultural shock for me. It was a cultural shock. I remember so vividly coming to Nashville, 1961, I'm talking about, and being in the downtown area, the Black Business District, and I never will forget seeing the huge billboard that had the Gold Dust Twins looking down. That was a cultural shock to me, and going into the stores and seeing canned food that was called Negro beans and stuff like this. So that was very different. And the only very, very few things that I can remember in my background that made me aware of the real race problem that existed in this country. And I remember with my family watching the events in the South on television, and my dad said to me, "Gloria, I'm sending you there to get an education. Do not get involved in the movement." And that's the very thing that I did, and I think it was the best education I ever had because of that involvement. And when I became a student at TSU, it was in '61, and the Freedom Rides had already taken place. And many of the mass movement events had already transpired. Bevel and Diane Nash had left Nashville. So it was a new period in Nashville for the civil rights movement because it was just a few places really holding out.
Very good. And of course, let us have this first commercial break here, Professor McKissack, and then we'll come back and we'll let you pick up at that particular point, because I think that the information that you're giving us now is sort of an insider's view in terms of becoming involved with, and especially an insider who was not familiar at all with the racial mores of Nashville and the Deep South. And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. The topic is